What is good, y'all? Welcome back to Chris and Rock Productions. As always, I am Chris. All right, guys. So I am beyond excited to do this interview for y'all. This is only the second time I've ever done this, so hopefully I do as good as I did last time. But our guest, he's gonna carry because he's an absolute dime of a person. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Nonfiction. How you doing?
I'm good, brother, man. How are you doing, man?
I am doing fine.
I'm
We
glad
had
to
some
hear
issues before this show started, so but I'm
that.
happy we got it. We got it fixed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um, I was determined to get this done because I was so excited. I've been thinking about it all day. I've,
Oh yeah,
I've been
me
really
too.
looking
Yeah,
forward to this. That's
same here.
good.
Same here. I even told my partner, you know what? I got some. I got something more important to do than the basketball game today. So we
I
gotta we
appreciate
gotta
that.
get it
I
in.
appreciate that. So I guess so. If you'd like to tell us about yourself when you started on YouTube, or if you want to get into your life, anything like that, you're more than welcome
um.
to.
So what? I mean, I always wanted to do YouTube when I first. 'Cause like. Let me start over.
Mhm.
I'm an old head. I'm old head. I'm not a young kid. I might not look super old, but I'm old head. And I watch quite a bit of YouTube and different creators. And for the longest time, like a creator I used to watch was like Logan Paul. I've seen every Logan Paul video he ever made, and when he was like true Logan Paul, not the Logan Paul
True.
we see now. That's like the podcast is seems a little bit greedy about money type person now.
Yeah, I hear
But
you.
I seen him in the beginning, seeing like him and his brother, how they grew up and how they blew up over time. All the people that was in that realm. Um, it always was entertaining, you know what I'm saying, watching them. But then I started watching like Tyrone Magnus, and I see a lot of creators like
I
Real
remember. Yeah.
Rejects, like anybody that dealt with movies. I've seen a lot of people that are on YouTube now, and they're much bigger. I've seen them in their early stages
Okay.
and been fans of them for quite a long time, and still watch their videos on occasion when I have time to watch them. And I always wanted to do what they did, like what Tyrone Magnus did, or what Real Rejects back in the day. Because the Rejects, they were on. Oh, what was the show? It was a show where you can actually they did it was like a trivia show, but it dealt with movies and TV shows. And the way they did that, it was just fun to see. It was fun to see so many
Yeah.
people into movies that were into things that the movies that I liked or I enjoyed to watch, and they knew so much and were so in depth.
Yeah.
That's what got me to want to be on YouTube. And for the longest time was just like thinking, okay, I felt like YouTube was a young person's game. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm not gonna get on there and get and just it's not gonna work out for me. So put it back in my head, thought about it for a long time, and then finally I went to go see the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland.
Oh,
And so
Homecoming. Yeah.
yeah. So when I seen him in Civil War, I was like, everything about him in that moment felt like what Spider-Man to me was supposed to feel like. He
Yeah.
felt
I hear
young, he
you.
felt inexperienced, he felt um fearful is not the word, but he felt intimidated by Captain America and by Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. and
Yeah.
Chris, you know what I'm saying, Chris Evans. And to find out that even in his interview, when they brought him in, the same emotion that he had during that interview process was the same emotion we seen on the screen because that's how he really felt.
Yeah. Definitely.
Standing next to these quote unquote movie giants, at the time. But when I watched that movie is what inspired me to actually do my first video.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
So
absolutely love that.
yeah, so it's literally if you go back to my first video, it's right after I come out the movie theater. I'm in my car, see that theater, and just super elated and excited of the direction they did with that Spider-Man and how he felt like what Peter Parker was supposed to feel like to
I'm gonna go
me.
back and watch that video. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch that one. I love
It's my
that.
it's my first video, man. It's my first video. And of course, because Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters, I've seen all
Yeah.
the Spider-Man movies and Toby and those guys were good. I just felt they didn't fit because Toby was way older. You know what I'm saying? He
Yes.
he played a great role for the time. You know what I'm saying? And even in the
Yes.
second run, the Spectacular Spider-Man, they played a great role. I felt he was more. I think I know people don't like this excuse, but I felt he was too cool to be Spider-Man.
He was too cool for school. Andrew Garfield
Yeah,
was very too
yeah.
cool for school.
And I
Yes.
love Andrew Garfield. I think he's an excellent actor, but I
Oh,
just felt
100%. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
he was good in the suit. The way he handled his quips,
His
were
quick
beautiful.
whenever the mask is on,
He
he
was
honestly, whenever he has the he's
ex
untouchable.
exactly.
When it
That's
comes
what
off and he's
yes.
Peter Parker, I'm like,
I'm like
"Okay, that's Andrew
I'm like,
Garfield."
he's too handsome. he's,
Yes,
he's
I hear
he's
you.
too handsome to be Peter. Not saying Peter can't be handsome, but he was just too
He
cool.
he's nerdy, he's nerdy.
Yeah.
Not that nerdy guys can't be hot, but, like,
Yeah,
Andrew Garfield was just too
exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And then so when I seen Tom Holland, it just felt right. It felt right. I was
Yes.
like, this is my Spider-Man. This and so like I said, that inspired me to um do my first video. But as far as my actual background, I went to school for television and film, did some radio, I did music management, managed a couple artists, traveled a
Awesome,
little bit
okay.
up down the West Coast with some artists. My main artist was signed by Jamie Foxx, and I got a chance to sit with Jamie during some times, and it wasn't like he really was focused on me at all. It was his artist. They were close already, but then he helped the artist a lot, grow and blossom to be a young star if the opportunity came. But
Yeah,
it was cool to learn to meet people who are quote unquote famous, what I'm saying, or stars, and see
yeah,
them outside that element and realize they're really just regular people. They're just regular people. There's what makes them famous is our ideas of how we see them. You know what I'm saying? They're
yeah,
just like me and you,
definitely.
But
Yeah,
so like I said, did that for a while, left the music scene, left the video scene, didn't do anything for quite a while until I started doing this. That's when I kind of got back into it. Still love movies, watch movies. Right. I would say the last couple years I've been more focused on the comic book movies than anything,
yeah.
because that's just where my heart is. But I still
Same, yeah.
watch. I still watch a little bit of everything because I watch cartoons, I watch animes, I watch. I mean, kids television, like it. I mean, PBS. So I watch everything, like everything.
I'm right there
So
with you.
because you never know where you can get either inspiration from or just find something that you truly love that you can pass on to somebody else.
Definitely, and I
Yeah.
think, like, comfort is key,
Yes.
and whenever you find comfort in something, it it's just, like, something you just wanna indulge yourself in.
Hmm.
Um, like, obviously, the pandemic a few years ago, early pandemic 2020, we were all going through it,
Oh
and
yeah.
television and movies was the backbone.
Yeah.
Obviously, our workers, our nurses,
Yeah.
thank you. But I
Yes.
guess for people at home, whenever we're just in by ourselves, movies and television was what got us through it.
Yeah. Very true.
And
Very true.
I think during that time, it just showed how much art what it matters to people, what movies mean to
Hmm.
people, what TV means to people. And I'm happy you mentioned the comic book genre because that, if you look behind me, it's my favorite
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. I
I have a
am
few
a
things. I have a few things back there.
definitely. I'm a comic book genre connoisseur. Do I know
Hmm.
every single detail? No,
Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
because it's not that it's not important, but it's just there's only so much capacity my brain can take in.
Yes. Yes. It's so much. Yeah. I totally get that, and that's what when I do. I haven't done it in a while, but when Disney Plus has a series, because Disney Plus is the one platform that when you utilize their video footage, they're less likely to block you. And I think it's because Disney has learned that YouTubers
Yeah,
help promote their product. You know,
definitely. Yeah,
and many brands like I don't really want to put everybody out there, but WB, DC, Paramount, they'll block a lot of your stuff. You know what I'm saying? They'll block it or they'll claim it where it's like you can't make anything off of it, which is not it's not the reason why we're doing it, but it's like the potential is still there for it to happen. Um,
yeah, I hear you.
so like like I said, when I used to do watch parties, and when I would do like the Marvel shows, and I watch it and let people come on and we talk about it, and people be in the chats, and it was just fun. That was just fun. I haven't done it in a while because I need to get another computer, so things have been a little choppy here and there, but
Okay.
I'm making it work. I'm making it work.
That's good to hear. I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that. And what you mentioned was what got you into you like what kind of gave you inspiration to do YouTube
Hmm.
was Homecoming. I'm right there with you. Homecoming. It's personally my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Tom Holland is my personal favorite Spider-Man. I grew up with Toby as well, but like you mentioned, Toby, he was just a different version.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned, Homecoming. You absolutely love that movie. So my question to you is, what are some comfort movies that you've seen countless times, or a movie that you just if you get home, you've had a bad day, we've all had it, and you just want to just put something on the TV and you just want to relax. What's something that you've seen so many times?
So I have a couple that I say, comfort films, quote unquote comfort films. And just
Mhm.
to throw out the like the last three or four, like Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park. Really love watching that movie.
Yes.
Uh the first Back to the Future. And then like
Yes.
Clue, 1985 Clue. It's such a
Okay.
good movie. It's such a good movie. Great comedy, great story, great writing. When you're writing a multifaceted story with multiple things happening at the same time, if you ever get a
Yeah.
chance to watch it, just watch it because it's so much happening and the way they tie it together. It's beautiful writing. It's really
I
good
need to
writing
check it out. Gotta check it out.
for a comedy But my true comfort film is people never believe me when I tell them is actually Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
I love
So
that. Ace Ventura. I love him.
yeah, when I was in college for like 2 years, I kind of went through your different phases, and sometimes you have bad emotional months or weeks or days. And Ace Ventura was a movie that
I hear you. Yeah.
I can just put in and just watch, and it was just I was entertained every single time, and I can forget what happened or what was happening or what I felt like was about to happen. It helped, calm me down. And it was, I'm telling you,
That's
that
good.
movie, Jim Carrey, he carried me through college, like literally carried me through college. You know,
He's a legend. He's a
I love
legend.
Jim Carrey. Yeah, I love Jim
Yeah.
Carrey.
Ace Ventura, I think it's like in the 90s, he had a hot run,
Oh
and
yeah, a hot
Ven
run.
Ve Ace Ventura was a part of that hot run, um, and
I
I would
think.
never expected that movie. I loved
Oh
Ace
no,
Ventura, but for that to
yeah.
be a comfort movie, it makes sense, definitely.
Oh yeah, and I mean, of course, I would say if there was another that was I just felt where he acted his butt off, it was the Truman Show. Truman Show was so good.
Truman oh, that's probably his best acting performance is
Yeah,
Truman Show. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
And some other movies you named, like Back to the Future. Actually, I did I think I did a top 10 a few weeks ago, and Back to
Mhm.
the Future is in my top 3. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I actually watched it 2 days ago again.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think that movie is just it's the epitome of the '80s.
yes,
It is the
yeah.
most obviously, there's so many '80s movies. The '80s had absolute bangers, but for me,
So
Back to the
many
Future is like the epitome of the '80s,
Mhm.
and I didn't grow up in the '80s. I am nostalgic about a time that I never existed in,
Yeah,
but definitely, like, I think that time period and what the Back to the Future does, it just embodies that culture, and I love
yeah.
it.
It really does. It's. I mean, there's so many more that I could probably say that might embody a little bit more, but for what that movie did, it was like a. I don't want to say a cultural phenomenon, but it was a phenomenon where
It
people
was,
were
yeah.
people were now really interested in what the future was going to be like even more. Because
Yeah.
honestly, people you might laugh at it, but the Jetsons honestly did that, where
Mhm.
people wondered about cars flying and what's how food is going to be processed and what was the
Yeah.
world going to be like. Are we going to be living in the sky? And I think I want to say some of the stuff in Back to the Future was 2022, 2023. Like, and so when you look at it, you're like, wait, when you think about it, like it's funny how we thought it was going to happen that fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we're going to be
Yeah.
in flying cars, which they're starting to get developed this year. And I know there's some supposed to be released at the end of 2025. So we were
Interesting.
close. We're close.
I think, that the writing team, the producers, the director, their imagination was off the charts, and they practically got it right to a degree,
Yeah,
so that's something in its own right. And like you mentioned, Jurassic Park, a classic. I'm actually gonna go here. I'm in the Houston area. There's a
yeah,
Jurassic Park exhibit that just opened up last week, so I'm gonna go there pretty soon. I'm really excited for that.
that's pretty cool.
Um, so I love that your movies are just like you mentioned, like culture phenomenons, because there's been so many documentaries on Jurassic Park, on
Hmm.
Back to the Future,
How
like just
important they
about
were. Yeah,
how important they were, how they were made, what box office and culture impact it had. So to see that it had an impact on you, I think it's just absolutely incredible. I love that.
Oh yeah, the 80s. I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s. I'm a kid of the 80s and the 90s. So I everything that happened in the 80s, I've seen most of those movies multiple times. Like when you talk
Yeah,
about like your Sweet 16s and your 16 Candles and Duplicity and all those crazy movies. I've watched all of those. Like that, those movies literally raised me. So I love those movies. So people talk about them now, but hey, don't talk about my movies. That's the epitome of movie. That's the epitome of Hollywood is the 80s to the 90s. And I say a lot of stuff that's out now. Yeah, they're good, but a lot of them just repeated stories of what I grew up off of.
I hear
So
you. Yeah. At times it takes like a true original story to kind of
yeah,
separate itself. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a true original story.
good
Obviously,
movie.
it took elements from like different parts, but I've never seen anything like that. So it's rare. It's very hard for a movie
Hmm.
now to do something like that. I think Oppenheimer definitely has done that
Yeah,
recently.
it was
Once
different.
Upon a Time in Hollywood. So like you mentioned, you said you were a kid of the 80s, and you said
Hmm.
the 80s and the 90s was the epitome of cinema. What I want to know is what movie or movies, you know, if you have a few that
Hmm.
you wish you could go back and rewatch for the first time.
So because I am, comic movies is like comic movies and comic shows and cartoons is one of the things I enjoy to watch over and over too. Is
Yeah.
it's the moment I would like to watch for the first time again is Captain America picking up Mjolnir for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
That when you see the scene, when you see it coming, you don't really see it coming. Even though when you go back and watch it, they've been telling. Well, you already know they've been telling you because when it happened
Since
in Age
Age
of
of
Ultron,
Ultron, you know, when
you
he when
knew.
he when he nudged Mjolnir, yeah,
And then what made that scene so interesting is, I wonder if they don't ever, they never tell you this, but I wonder if they were thinking like he could have picked it up the entire time because always wondered if he could pick it up and he just didn't because he knew everybody else couldn't. Because Cap's character was not about embarrassing other people. He didn't want to show that he was
definitely.
better than everybody else. That was never his thing. That's never his
So
personality.
I have something. I
Yeah.
don't know if you think this theory makes sense. So
Okay.
Age of Ultron is 2015, right?
Yeah.
Civil War is 2016 and within the MCU
Hmm.
timeline. I think maybe this makes sense or not. I think Cap was worthy, but he wasn't truly worthy because of the secret that he was hiding from Tony.
I've seen people talk about that too. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think who knows, Mjolnir is this magical hammer.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just Cap was almost there, but he just had that one kind of pillar,
Yeah.
to get past. And who knows? Maybe if you talk to the Russo brothers, they're probably like, "Oh, we didn't even think about that. But we just
Which
wanted a cool moment."
that does it kind of makes sense because once that truth comes out and he's now living in this truth and he's getting past that by the time he picks up the hammer, that's no longer an issue because now him and Steve are friends again. I mean, him
Yeah,
and
Tony.
Iron Man, Tony are friends again. So
Yeah.
that could be true. That could be true. I always felt like I wonder if he could have just picked it up and he just didn't because he saw how bad. 'Cause especially when you look at Tony Stark, it's his confidence. I think that would have cracked his confidence real bad if he just saw Steve just pick it up no problem and then put it back down.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a great man,
but
but he's very egotistical at the same
right,
time.
but that's
Yeah.
that's always been his character, you
That's
know.
been his character. Yeah,
Yeah,
always. Yeah.
but yeah, that was that moment was probably one of my favorite moments in the movie theater, and I wish when I seen it I was on the West Coast and not in Texas. Because
It
if I was on the West Coast, I know the theater would have been a lot different than it was in Texas. Because
would have been
Texas, people,
wild.
it was cool. It was but I know like people that I would go theaters with on the West when they went to theaters, it was crazy. It was when you see those movie reactions. I know some people that were in some of those theaters, so I'm like, oh, it'd have been nice to be in some of those theaters.
My theater, uh, it went mild. Like
Yeah,
the crowd
it
went
was mild.
mild.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I I popped.
I freaked
Me and
out.
Ralph, we freaked the hell out. I, so whenever it shows the hammer get lifted by Cap's hand,
Yeah,
I was the only one. And then
Yeah,
everyone,
yeah,
like, my friend was like, "What?" And I was like, "You're."
yeah. Me and my friend, I was my coworker, but we became friends because of Marvel movies and
Yeah,
DC movies. But we both, soon as we saw, we looked at each other like, "Oh my god, it's it's about to happen. It's about to go down." That's how we felt. And there was a couple people in there, kind of hyped, but it wasn't
yeah,
like I wish it would have been. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't ruin the moment. It was still a great moment. And it's one that
mhm,
I love seeing in the movies. I'm glad they made us wait as long as they did to do that.
definitely.
And the Avengers Assemble, they made us wait to hear that. You know what I'm saying?
They
So
they've been teasing that since when did they last tease it? It was Civil War when they first teased Cap saying Avengers, and then they cut away.
and then also when the Avengers first meet for the first time, I think there was a moment where it was set up to kind of happen, but if you remember, Tony spoke instead.
Yeah,
And so he kind of cut off Cap. Like Tony thought he was the lead. Like, no, it's never been you. It's never been you. You just think you're
nah,
the lead. It's always been Cap. So, but yeah, when he does the Avengers Assemble and you hear Thor just roar and everybody just goes into action.
the swell,
I
dun,
love
dun,
love that
dun, dun,
moment.
dun. Oh my gosh.
That was like I
So
love that moment. And then the one that almost like and because most of my stuff deals with Marvel, DC has some
oh,
great moments, but it's
yeah,
not
go
it's
for
not
it,
like
go
how
for it.
Mobile built it up. But so that one, and then when it's Cap against Thanos and 10,000 people, and all of a sudden you see the portal open, and
Yeah,
he goes on your left, and I was like, I just put a tear to my eye, like
tear that yeah.
it's straight. I was like, okay, yeah, this is this was great writing, and it bothered me so much when such established directors and producers in Hollywood try to downplay comic book movies like they're just comic book movies. When it's
Let's
like
get
that
into
was
that. Let's get into
yeah,
that, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, oh, I'm sorry, you can
Oh,
continue, my bad.
oh
Apologies.
no, it's all good. It just that bothered me so much when and I felt like it's because they may have been approached at one point to do those movies, but because they look down on it, what I'm saying, like it's beneath them.
Yeah,
So because they looked that way at it and they chose not to do it, they were like had their noses up in the air come to that type of movie or type of content, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
And it's like regardless of how many records Marvel DC movies break, it still was very entertaining. It's very good. You know what I'm saying? A lot of not all of them. We know that not all of them, but some are really good stories. And if you allow yourself to be in, enveloped by them, you can really you can really be getting emotional with certain characters.
Oh,
When
100%, yeah.
like at the not end game, but before when Spider-Man at the very end where you know his Spidey sense is fighting the snap so much where he's the last person to die. He's the last person to fade away.
Yes. Yeah.
Like and then that's the when he finally started to act, I was like, this mug start really put on the acting at that point, and that made me cry. Like that made me cry. I'm not even gonna lie, I cried when Spider-Man died, and not because it's
Okay.
Spider-Man, but because the acting he did at that moment. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
Holland.
that's Tom Holland from the stage in London. That's not
Yes.
that's a good actor right there.
That's not green skin Holland, that's the theater kid Holland.
Yeah. And then when you find out he didn't even know he was gonna die. He didn't know until last minute. He didn't even know. Like not everybody knew he was gonna die right away. He did not know. And so when they told him that moment for that scene, and he put those acting chops on, put on that jacket, I was like, that boy can act. He's really good. But it just um I know I'm talking a lot, but
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
the just to have other big time directors look down upon it and talk down on it, it's kind of hurt my spirits. Being somebody who, you know, at one point in time went to school for television, went to school for film, and I know that the film community is a community. Regardless if it's just actors, sound people, directors, technical TDs and ADs. Like it's a real community and family with some movies and some parts of the Hollywood set. Like not everybody doesn't know each other, but a lot of people do know each other, and they help each other. So to see
Yeah.
somebody of status, you know, talk down, it's like, well, that was just rude. Like
Yeah.
why would you do that? Is it real? Are you jealous because it made $1 billion? Because now it knocked your movie out the top ranking? Are you really? Is that what it is?
Yeah. And there's times where their movies never even had a fighting chance.
Yeah, yeah,
And I hate saying that because, it kind of feels like, oh, I'm downplaying the art of that film. No, I mean, there's just movies that it's just straight. It should be straight to streaming, and that's
yeah.
tough saying that
Oh
now.
yeah.
There's tough saying that because I think obviously, there was a time where people thought movie theaters were dead, and rightfully so because
Hmm.
it felt like in 2020 when Warner Brothers did the straight to streaming, same day streaming. So
Yeah.
there was a lot going on, and a lot of our directors kind of went to bat against the studios.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it definitely coincided with their thoughts on comic book movies, genre movies. Um, so I guess the discussion that a lot of people are having is like, should this movie go into theaters? Because it's just going to cost the studio money if they put it in theaters. It's going to make 1/5 of its budget, and then it's going to be on Netflix next week. And I think there are directors who definitely, I think, hold a grudge against those box office movies because it's just natural. They're just eating up all the competition.
Yeah.
Um, and on the other hand, you can look at it as, the directors just kind of feels like they need to protect their art, but you're not protecting your art if you're attacking other art. That's not
If you're
protecting it.
attacking somebody else, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree 100% with that. And I understand if you feel some type of way, if you feel some type of way, just say that.
Yeah.
Don't try to downplay somebody else's art because you just feel your art is better. If you feel your art is better, say it. Like I just feel my art is better. And people will hate on you, but at the same time, that's your opinion, and you're allowed to have that opinion. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I mean, unfortunately, we're at a time of the cancel culture, which is stupid. But regardless, like if that's how you feel, then just say it. Like, oh, I feel Titanic is a better movie, and it should be number one. That's cool. I think Titanic is an okay movie. It's great because people made it great.
Yeah.
It's the boat is the main character. That's
Yeah.
really where it is. The boat is the main character. I mean, honestly, for me, not for everybody else, for me, that movie is quite boring until the boat breaks in half. Then it's like,
It it's
this is a
very
good
much it's a slow burn.
oh, it's
We
a very slow burn. The best part of that movie to me is when the ship is going down and the band is still playing. That's the best moment of that movie to me.
Oh yeah, that's a very, very I think that's the best scene of the movie.
Yeah,
It's
I feel
very,
like
very emotional.
it was very powerful and it was sad and powerful at the same time. And I was like, and then of course with them having the people down bottom, that was painful to see. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of
Yeah.
immigrants, migrants, people, African American, African, well, not African Americans, but Africans. It's like it was just hard to see those moments. And I understood that happened in real life, but to me, you could have did a documentary and did the same thing, and
Yeah.
even told the story that way in a different form. But
Mhm.
it still wasn't. I watched it because, like I said, I watch everything. Or I try to watch everything. And when I was younger, I watched a lot more than I watch now. Like,
Mhm.
but I just like I said, the hate was just I think was unnecessary. I think it was just unnecessary.
Yeah, and I think Martin Scorsese, he is an absolute legend, and
Oh,
I
of
think
course, yeah.
he's the face of going after Marvel and going after comic book
Hmm.
movies. Whenever I watch his films, do I think about that? No. I saw what's it called? The Flower movie? Killers of the
Uh,
Flower Moon.
yeah,
I saw that beautiful film. I saw it twice, and it's like a 3.5 hour movie.
yeah,
And at no point did I ever think about Martin Scorsese talking shit about Captain America.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you go on Twitter and you scroll and you see a different director go after Marvel. It is what it is. Like you said, they're entitled to their opinion. I just want people to understand that you're not lifting up your own art by destroying other
yeah.
art.
And
You
you're not
just
lifting up the community either. You're just tearing it
exactly.
apart.
Yeah, you're
Just
dividing it. You're
yeah,
adding division. Yeah.
yeah. I agree.
Um, so my next question, I think we already answered it.
Yeah.
Your favorite movie theater experience. which
Yeah.
was Mjolnir, the portal
Yeah.
scene. I think I'll throw one in there. Civil War, whenever
Oh, yeah.
uh Ant-Man becomes Giant Man,
Yeah.
I
That
was
was a
not
great
expecting that. That was
moment.
such a great scene,
Yeah.
beautiful scene. And there's so many good moments I've seen in theaters.
I
So
mean,
many,
in
so
in
many.
Civil War, I think my favorite moment was when they're fighting at the end, when Cap, Bucky, and Iron Man are
Oh,
fighting, and they do that moment where he does the hand, he does the two hand spray, and it mimics the comic book. That's the alternate cover for the comic book.
mhm,
I was like,
yes,
I was like, I was like, that's the moment. I was like, that's the moment. And I think I was the only one really hyped in the theater at that moment. Everybody was just hyped for the movie itself, but I was like,
yeah,
I know that scene. I know that picture. I know that. It's also in Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, when
yeah.
he's chasing Vulture and Vulture pulls down the ceiling and the ceiling's
Oh,
on
yes.
his back and he's trying to get up. That was paying homage to Steve Ditko.
Steve Ditko's art,
Yeah,
yes, where
that was
he's looking into the puddle, yes.
yeah, and the rubble's under him. He's trying to pick it up. That was straight written. That was straight done by Steve Ditko in the '70s. I was like, that I love that moment too. You know what I'm saying? Because I recognize some of those moments in the movies. I was like, I know this moment. I've read this moment.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess because now that I'm older and being excited that those movies have come to fruition and come to the theater in live action, those have become some of my favorite moments because as a child and a teenager and a young 20 something reading comics or talking to friends about comics or about comic book characters, it was always a dream to see those characters come to life. It was because for the longest time it was Batman, Superman, and the Flash. Those are the main ones that come to life. You had, if you go back even further to the 70s, you have the original Captain Marvel or Shazam, back in the 70s, but
The
it was
TV show,
always,
yeah.
yeah, but it was always Batman, Superman, Robin, the Flash. Those were the main ones. Of course, they had a version of Captain America that happened in the 80s. They had a version of Iron Man that happened in 86, 87. There's a version of Thor. And of course, there's multiple versions of Hulk. But
Lou Ferrigno.
yeah, the original was Lou Ferrigno. But to see MCU, start from the beginning and the
Yeah,
way the people they picked, I think were perfect for the characters. It's become my favorite period, like
mhm,
it's hard to say, oh, Bad Boys 1, because Bad Boys 1 has a great memory with me from me and my brother. You know what I'm saying? It's a great
yeah.
movie, a great memory for me, but I almost want to say the experiences of my childhood coming to life on the screen just overshadows everything,
I hear
you
you.
know.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, there's other moments, but those are probably my most cherished moments now. I'll
okay,
say that. Yeah.
I love that. So I do wanna stay on in the comic book genre real quick.
Okay.
This is sort of just a random question I thought of right now. If y'all seen my videos, whoever's watching, hopefully someone's
Hmm.
watching,
Hmm.
this recording. Um, I'm a massive DC fan. So the way that
Yeah.
you are with Marvel, that's how I am with DC. And I love
Yeah.
Marvel, of course.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think? It's not a competition,
I
but
don't think so. Yeah.
since
I love DC too. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but for the future, for the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think is going to be the deciding factor between DC and Marvel? Because
Ooh,
at the end of the
deciding
day,
factor.
somebody's going to pull ahead. It's
Oh yeah.
inevitable.
Yeah.
I
I
think there's going to be times where that happens.
I think if we're trying to compare, if we're trying to like truly compare, like there's movies in DC that I've actually like. I like the first Suicide Squad. People hate it. I really liked it. I actually liked that version of the Joker. I think he felt good for that film. People hate it. I don't care. I liked it's just you got to, your different moments. Because okay,
No,
so
definitely. Yeah.
this is how I explain it to people. When it comes to all the movies, no matter they're DC, no matter they're Marvel, they're all based off comic books, right?
Hmm,
And just
hmm.
like every comic book run, they're not always done by the same artist. They're not always written by the same writer. So
Yeah.
each comic book that you look at, if you take it where it's like, okay, each one is its own individual book. This movie, Civil War, is its own book, and it's done by three, a colorist, a writer, ink person for the wording. It's done different. Then you go into You go into another movie that's written by a whole that's written by a whole that's another book. It's written by somebody else. So I always say
Yeah.
each movie is done like a comic book where they're not always done by the same director, the writer. They're not done by the same colorist. They're not done by the same person. So they're going to be different. It's like Dark Knight is different from a lot of the other Batman stuff, but it's
Yeah.
so good. It's really good when you come to the comic book world because it feels gritty. It feels dark. It feels like where Batman should be. But there's earlier Batman that came out was really good too. Year one Batman's great stories, you know.
Yeah. I
So
have that. I have that one.
yeah, I have that one too actually. Um, Death of Superman. I think it's a great comic book. I think when they did it in the movie, they did it way too damn early. It should never happen.
Way, way
Should have
too
never
early.
happened when it happened. Should have never happened. They should have
Yes.
never. You did it for because I think at that moment they were trying. That's when you could tell they were trying to compete with Marvel. When it's, instead
Oh,
of just
a
instead of
100%.
instead of trying to create their own world, you're like, okay, you did that because you're trying to take shine. And then we know Marvel did Civil War because they heard that DC was doing Justice League. That's the only reason why they did it. They weren't going to just Civil War wasn't going to be a thing until 6, 7 movies later after they introduced Captain Marvel. It wasn't supposed to be a thing,
Interesting. Okay.
but
I didn't
but
know that.
because they heard DC was pumping for Justice League, they moved Civil War up. It wasn't supposed to happen. They were actually going to close the story. They're going to try to close the story for Captain America and then finish them off where Civil War would have happened. That had been Captain America 3. It wasn't supposed to be Captain America 2. It wasn't supposed to happen that way.
Interesting.
So they rushed because they were scared about Justice League. That's the only reason why they did it. So it's like we know they're competing. And the bad thing about it is they shouldn't. They shouldn't compete. It doesn't the same fans that are going to watch Civil War are going to the same fans are going to watch Justice League. Yes, because of the actors and the actresses in those films, they're going to get stragglers from all over because the people that are acting in it, they want to see Affleck as Batman because
Yeah.
Affleck as Batman is badass.
Yeah.
Aff- when he in that warehouse scene and he's kicking ass left
That's
and
a great
right,
scene. That's a great
I was
scene.
like,
Yeah.
that's Batman. I was like, that's Batman. Because my whole thing is, I've always been a Keaton. I love Keaton as Batman. I know he's not traditional Batman, but he's like early Batman. He's early young Batman. You know what I'm saying? I just loved how he played him. It was just fun for me as a kid.
Yeah.
But as far as Suko, I think right now DC has an opportunistic moment to not really take over, but take a large share of the pie because Marvel is going through this phase where they're trying to not necessarily rebrand but refocused. So if they can
Yeah.
refocus and if they get rid of some of their internal hemorrhaging dealing with the higher ups, DC has a very good opportunity. The problem with it is Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is the problem.
David Zaslav.
Yeah. Warner Brothers, I think, has been the problem for DC since the beginning. They they will get a great script. They'll see like the dailies, and all of a sudden they'll start cutting stuff because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to make the money. And that's because the suits are comparing themselves to Marvel when they should be comparing themselves to themselves. It shouldn't that should be what the situation is. Don't I know this? I know it's an industry where competition is always heavy, especially when you're in the same, genre, quote unquote. But you're not because you're DC. You're your own entity. There's so
Hmm.
many fans that love your product, that love your characters, that love your stories. They're going to go watch it. They're going to go watch Marvel too. Like I'm going to watch both. I watch them all. So
Yeah.
it's like, but I do think right now is a moment where DC can grab a large share of the pie.
Definitely. And I think, with the MCU, however people paint it, I think overall the multiverse saga has been more on the iffy side than it's been on the good side. Me personally,
Hmm.
there's been
Hmm.
there's been great projects like
Oh
Shang
yeah, yeah.
Chi, No Way Home, um,
I really like
but I
Shang-Chi.
just yeah, I love Shang Chi. I saw that in theaters I think like 3 times. It
Yeah,
is such a good movie.
great
Um,
script.
oh, definitely, and I forget the director's name, Dustin something. I think
Yeah.
he was doing an Avengers movie. I don't know if he still is or isn't. Um, But so with DC, I'm a massive James Gunn fan, so I'm
Hmm.
I'm very much looking forward to see what they do there. If someone to ask me which one are you looking forward to, I'm picking the DCU. That's just me
Hmm.
personally.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm looking forward to the MCU, or in the future. I just think their track record the last few years has been up and down. But we shall see.
Oh
Fantastic
yeah,
Four,
understandable.
I can't wait for Fantastic Four. That's up there for one of my more anticipated movies.
Mhm.
Deadpool and Wolverine, of course, that's gonna break box office. It's gonna be their biggest movie since No Way Home.
I do think it's going to be a great movie, but now after seeing some rumor stuff, kind of afraid for Deadpool because I guess they did some test watches, and it's people the party people that watched it felt it was too vulgar, so now they're going to reshoot and take out stuff.
Mm,
Yes, I'm like this is
it's Deadpool.
and that's the problem when you have a character like that and you have people in suits who don't read comic books, who don't
Yeah,
care about the story. They don't care about the continuity. They don't care about the character. You can't put them in a room and say, "Hey, watch this movie and tell us what you think." If they don't know anything about the character or they know very little, they know it's Ryan Reynolds, you know what I'm saying, Hugh Jackman, they're going to want to, okay, we'll watch it. But at the same time, if they don't care about the character, they're going to be like, "Oh, he's cursing way too much. Why is he talking about Disney like that? Why is he just, down, talking down on DC?" Because it's Deadpool. It's what he does. Like when they make Lobo, it's going to be something similar. It's going to be
yeah,
raunchy and crazy. Like Lobo's comics are freaking out. It's great. Are wild.
I bet. I
But
think that has to be. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but that rumor could be a marketing tool.
it
Like,
could
oh,
be.
it's scaring the suits. That's how vulgar it is, and people are just gonna get
Yeah.
more excited. I mean, Joker, which is not the happiest film on earth, made over a
Yeah.
billion. Those
See,
Deadpool movies made over a billion.
I have a I have a love-hate relationship with that movie. I think
Joker,
it's a I think it's a good movie, but
okay.
I don't think it's like a it's not to me it wasn't what I would I'm glad I didn't pay to go see it. I would say that. I didn't pay to go see it. Because I
Okay.
was like when I watched it, I was like, this is cool, but it's not what I would have wanted for a Joker movie.
Were you hoping for more comic elements where it was more him plotting on the city type of thing, or
Not even
what was it
plotting, but just
exactly?
it just didn't feel like a comic book movie. Like it didn't feel like it was. It felt like it just felt like a movie that was about a person who dealt with a lot of loss and was just mentally changing. And that could have been
Mhm.
anybody. It didn't feel like it didn't have to be Joker. It could have been anybody. It felt like they saw a script that they thought could be put onto a Joker facade, and they just threw Joker into it because they needed a Joker. They wanted a Joker movie. It didn't feel like a Joker movie to me because it wasn't. It just didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it was part of DC. I'll say it like that.
Okay.
Like it felt like a one-off shoot comic where it's like, okay, that's an interesting story, but that's not Joker. You know?
Yeah, and I think the purpose of it was to be, DC Black Label, where it was to be this contained
Yeah,
story. Me
yeah.
personally, I've seen it like over 10 times. I love that film, but I under like I hear I've never heard that perspective
Mhm.
of like the reasons on why you didn't love it. So that's fair. That's fair.
It was a good movie, but I just didn't feel like it was a Joker movie. That's like,
Yeah,
you know,
I get you. Are
yeah.
you looking forward to the sequel? Because we're getting Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga on that one. I cannot wait.
No.
You're not? Oh my
I,
gosh.
I don't want a singing movie that's in DC or Marvel. That's not what I want.
I do.
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I think can I see Gaga as Harley Quinn or Harley, or, Quinzel? Could be, yeah. I just don't know. Like, I'd have to just see it because to know that it's supposed to be like a quasi musical. That's just not my. I don't care about like musicals. I can watch musicals. That's not the issue. It's just it just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel
Okay.
right to me. Yeah.
Well, we don't have to wait that much longer for a
Yeah.
trailer. We get a trailer on the 9th, which is 7 days from now. So
Yeah.
next Tuesday, we'll get the trailer for that. I am looking forward to it. But let's switch gears back to, broad movies,
Mhm.
So my next question to you is, what movie reminds you of home? Because you mentioned California earlier and you mentioned Texas. So, California is where you're from, right?
Yeah. I was raised in Oakland, California. Oakland.
Oakland,
So
California. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I would love to hear like what movies remind you of Oakland in your childhood and things like that.
See, okay, so it's the funny thing about it is there's so many movies that were just shot in Oakland where I've seen it
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's Oakland. That there's parts of Matrix, and of course one of my favorite moments where I realized it was Oakland was when I was sitting in the theater watching Black Panther.
At the
And
beginning, I love
yeah,
that. Yeah.
at the beginning and the end are both like
Oh, yeah, at
different.
the end, yeah.
It's like, and the course of director is from Oakland, and then of course Fruitville Station. That I don't know if you've ever seen that.
That's the Michael B. Jordan, right? Or is
Yeah,
that okay, yeah. I
It's
haven't
Michael B.
seen it,
Jordan. Yeah,
but, Coogler directed that, right?
I believe so. And
Yeah, okay.
what was always interesting when I tell people about that movie is like that station is the same station I caught my train from every day from school.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was like, I know when I seen the movie, it just brought back so many memories. Of course, I was not on that train when it happened. I was not. I was in Sacramento at the time, but I remember like seeing it. I was like, wait, what? That's where I went. That's my high school. Like my high school's a block away from there. But yeah, Fruitvale Station, of course, a lot of original Black Panther party movies. There's bits and pieces of The Incredibles are based in the Bay Area. If you ever
Yeah,
seen the first one, if you ever seen the first one when Frozone is skating across the lake and he's
yeah,
freezing the lake, that lake
yeah.
is actually considered Lake Merritt, which is the centerpiece of Oakland, California.
Okay.
So a lot of the people from Pixar lived in Emeryville, which is one of the neighboring cities to Oakland, because Pixar. I mean, no, the Pixar's in Emeryville. They lived in Oakland, so
Oh, okay.
you know, so like Incredibles. But there's so many different little movies where there's bits and pieces of Oakland where I just see it and it just makes me think, when I was a kid, like, oh, just remember
Yeah,
being like, I've been away for so long, um, but as far as like childhood stuff, it's like Sandlot because I was a big baseball kid when I was a kid.
okay.
I played a lot of baseball in the streets, and Sandlot was one of my all-time favorite movies for a long time. Like I love Sandlot.
Definitely. It's a classic.
Um, yeah, and then as far as like just memories, it wasn't about Oakland, but it's memory about happier times. Was a movie called The Natural with Robert Redford. It's a
I haven't
baseball
seen
movie.
that. Okay.
It's a baseball movie, and that was like one of my favorite movies for a long time. Like I said, before I really got big into or back into football and basketball, baseball was because the Raiders had left to Los Angeles. The Warriors were still there, and I watched them, but they weren't doing well most of the time. They get to right at the edge of the playoffs and lose, but the A's were winning titles, and I would go to
Yeah.
games all the time. Or ride my bike to the games with my friends. Tickets were like $7, so we can go anytime you wanted to. But like I said, the biggest one for me was, I guess, most recent that I remember that I seen in the theater was Black Panther. I know there's others, uh, like freaking The Matrix Reloaded, like the chase scene in the tunnel. That's in the Bay Area. That's in Oakland.
Okay.
The That freeway scene in the one of the last movies where she's riding the Ducati. That freeway was created. It was built in the Bay Area for them to shoot that scene. Like all that stuff was done there. So, there's a lot of movies and there's where the scenes I know they're in the Bay Area, and so they
Okay.
did those when I see them in movies, but nothing like directly says that reminds me of there. Besides movies that have the physical locations, you know what I'm
Locations.
saying?
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fair. Yeah.
but I know there's a lot that have pieces like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Up is when he goes to the movie theater. That's the Fox Theater in Oakland, downtown Oakland. So I know the ice cream place is the place. The ice cream place he takes a little kid to is the neighbor. It's a real place next door to the Fox Theater in Oakland.
Okay.
So
That's
like I
nice.
said, once again, that's the Pixar guys because they lived in Oakland. So that's probably a place they went to once or twice. So
I love
you know,
Up. I
yeah,
love the movie.
a great movie. Great movie. And if you don't cry during Up, you just don't have a soul.
I
you just
honestly
you don't have a
when
soul.
I saw that for the first time, I had to take a nap afterwards. I was tired.
It's such a well written story, and it hits you right in the feelings. And it's so many moments. It's not just one moment. It's so many moments where you're like,
Oh, yes.
when you start to understand what's happening and you see it, and if you watch it back, the things you missed, you're like, how did I miss that? Like that's such a good story. Um,
Yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire has they're at the Claremont Hotel and Spa that's in Oakland. So like I said, so many different parts in movies where when I see them, I'm like, it just reminds me of home and just growing up and where before it went through a lot of changes because right now it's in Oakland is in a tough phase and it's they're trying to get back to normal, but it's just so hard because crime is just all over the place now and it's just getting worse and worse. But
Mhm.
movies like that remind me of me where I come from and just my childhood. Moneyball. It's about Oakland, of the Oakland A's. So that's
Love the
that
movie.
that
Did
stadium
it
I spent.
report?
Yeah, that stadium I spent a lot of years in that stadium. A lot of minutes of my life was built in that stadium, bro.
Yeah, and it's tough to see that they're going to Las Vegas, like Oakland's
Yeah,
losing another
yeah.
team.
Another team we've lost. We're the only city to have lost three sports teams in less than 3 years. So
Raiders to Vegas, A's to Vegas, and then the Warriors
in San
physically
Francisco.
moved to
Yeah,
San Francisco. Yeah.
yeah, and and what's crazy if you're a Warriors fan and you see the games now, yeah, there's still fans there, but it's not the same. It is not the same. Like
It is very much Silicon Valley.
yeah, the tickets are
Yeah.
so much more expensive, and I understand if you understand sports, the reason why they did it is because having to pay Steph and Clay and Draymond like hundreds of millions of dollars, you got to be able to raise the price of tickets, and they couldn't do that
Yeah.
in Oracle. They couldn't because that fan base wasn't going to be able to pay the prices. So they had
Yeah.
to build a new stadium to get the price up. And I understand it makes sense. It just sucks, It sucks as a
Yeah.
fan, you know.
Okay. Oh,
But
so how
yeah,
long how long have you been in Texas?
been in Texas since 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
came the summer of 2015.
You've liked your time here
Yeah, I like
overall?
Texas
Okay.
for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I think the weather is truly bipolar
Oh,
at times,
100%. The weather is horrible. Yeah.
but I'm glad I'm in the Austin. I'm north of Austin, so I'm
North
glad
Austin. Okay.
I'm glad in that area where it's we don't really get the flooding like I know you guys might get in Houston or whatever like that. Could
Bad.
be could be very bad. My ex's family is down there, so when storms happen, I always like gotta check on and see how everybody doing because I know the flooding is bad down there because it's below sea
Oh,
level.
yeah. Oh,
So
we're you definitely below sea level. It's
yeah,
been a minute since it flooded. Hurricane Harvey was horrible,
yeah,
but the city recovered within a few months.
yeah.
So, but I'm happy to hear you've enjoyed your time here in Texas so far. I'm born and raised here. I've never really traveled.
Okay.
So all I know is Texas.
Hmm.
But to hear those movies that you named off that I didn't even know because obviously I've never been to Oakland, like
Yeah,
Up, like
yeah.
Matrix, those movies I had never even thought about how, whenever you watch them, it has a
Hmm.
different meaning because you just get instant like, "Oh, I've physically been there," or
Yeah,
"I have
yeah,
memories
yeah,
there." So
yeah.
that's cool to hear. Really cool to hear. Yeah, and here in Texas, a lot of our movies is just about Dazed and Confused, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that's pretty much it.
I love Days and
So
Confused.
Dazed
Great
and
movie.
Confused, our movies is either about drugs, weed, and then a guy with a chainsaw. So that's the culture we have over here.
I've been meaning to go to the Texas Chainsaw House too because it's still a thing and it's not that
I
far away from here.
actually I know
Yeah,
it's close to you because you're in the
yeah,
Austin area. I
yeah,
actually Google Mapped it last week because I do want to go visit it. I
yeah.
I found a restaurant that they have over there. I think it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre theme.
Is
Uh,
it really?
yeah, so I'm in Houston, so I think Houston to Austin is about
It's
two
like
like
a well,
3 hours, less than 3 hours.
yeah. It's because I'm above Austin, so it's like 3 hours for me, unless I'm driving faster than the speed limit. But I've never done that. I've never done that. So
Yeah, same.
but and use the Waze app. Great app. Great app.
A lot
um,
of speed traps are on there.
a lot of speed traps. But yeah, it's like 3 hours. 3 hours. But I think if you're going to there, it'll probably be 2 hours and 45 minutes because that's outside of Austin.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
hear you.
so
Okay.
it won't be a full 3 hours.
That's good. In Texas, it's Texas. Okay, so El Paso is closer to Los Angeles than El Paso is to Houston. That's how big Texas
Which
is,
which is crazy. Which is
which
really
is
crazy.
crazy when you think about
Yeah,
it. El
so
Paso's
crazy.
closer to Los Angeles than it is to Houston, and they're in the same state. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
the first time I was in Texas, we were going to visit a relative in Oklahoma. We have family in Oklahoma, and my dad,
okay.
we were driving. We came through, of course, the western part of Texas, and we came down. And you have to go down and then come up because of the way the freeways are. This was in the '90s. This was like in the '90s, but it took us so long to get through Texas. I was like, why are we still in this big state? Can we get to Oklahoma? It's like right there.
It's
But yeah, it's so freaking big, man.
oh, people love it. I love Texas, but it needs to get smaller. It's too big. So
Yeah.
while we wrap some things up,
hmm
but before we get into our last question, what are some things that you have coming up soon? Do you have any
Oh well,
projects or specific videos you're gonna do soon?
right now I am doing some. I wanted to do some watch alongs, but I think I'm going to just watch some TV shows and edit them for just for playback. I'm not going to do anything live, so just have a few videos that I'm doing. I've been doing a lot of XG reactions for the I won't say BTS, but for the K-pop group. I've
Yeah.
really been into like K-pop and to like finding different outlets for as far as music. Nothing specifically set up where it's like, oh, this is the big thing that's coming. Not necessarily yet, but like I said, I'm working on a couple of series that I'm watching that I'm going to watch and edit and put those out as their own
Okay.
individual series for watch. Just people can watch, and then some, like I said, some music reaction. Then I always do like random product or food reactions and some comic book ones. So
Okay.
uh, there'll probably be a little bit here for comic book stuff coming out shortly. I'm working on like a small short versus thing that I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it. I have all the people I want to do as verse each other. I have them all set already, and I just gotta figure out how exactly I want to present it because I believe this during April is it? I think during April is like comic book month or something like that. There's a day in April that's comic book day, so I was like, I'll do it in April. Just to focus on different characters. So I have about I want to say 17 or 18 different matchups to do.
Can you give
So
us a sneak peek of one?
Uh,
You don't have to. You don't have to.
one that's easy that people talk. I know people talk about Lobo versus Deadpool.
Okay.
You
Too smart mouth. Okay. I like
so
that. Okay.
very simple. You know what I'm saying? But I'm working with using like some AI stuff to see how it works, just to test it out.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting when it comes out. But it's some short, simple, just nothing too like fancy or like that. It's just pictures with some words and some dialogue
I
and
hear you. Okay.
see how it works. Is people have people pick and choose, and it's more so trying to just get people's attention and see if we can get dialogue in the comments to see who's watching.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's really about getting dialogue in the comments. It's not really about what I'm putting up because what I'm putting up is just facts and figures about the characters and it's stuff that people already know about the characters. It's more
Mhm.
so see. I want to start a war in the comments. Basically, that's basically what
I
I want to
love
do.
that.
So I love chaos. Control chaos.
I started a war the other day. I did a Teen Titans fan cast for the DCU, and those comics. I mean, the comments were all. I think like 100 comments, and a lot of them. A lot of them. And I'm open to it. If you disagree with me, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's my opinion. I don't expect everybody to agree with it. Um, but people can choose wording better. Calling
Oh
my
yeah.
list dumb without adding context. Come on.
That's
Give me a
people's
reason why
quickest
you think
way.
it's dumb.
Yeah. That's people's quickest response. They say, "Oh, that's stupid," but why? Can you tell me why?
And then I ask them why, crickets, which is fine. They're not
Yeah.
obligated to respond, but
Oh yeah.
I just want to know, why do you think it's dumb? I'm not
Yeah.
offended. I just want to know why. So
Yeah.
the
Because all
last thing,
opinions.
yeah, definitely. The last thing I wanted to check on with you is, what are some movies that you're watching right now that you want to tell? What are some recommendations that you have?
Like certain movies I've seen that I tell people that when we get in a conversation, like if I conversating with you, I'll say, check out the Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer, great movie
Matthew
with,
McConaughey. Yeah,
Matthew
great
McConaughey. I don't know
movie.
if you've seen it, but it was one of those movies where me and my ex when we were together, we were sitting up and just we saw it on display and we put on to watch it and we just got hooked because the story was really good. The story is
Yeah.
really good and the soundtrack is off the chain. Like it's a
Hmm.
great soundtrack. But Lincoln Lawyer, of course, for people who are into sports, something like The Natural, the great movie with Robert Redford, like I said before. Um, Most of them are like classic movies for me, or older
Okay.
movies.
Oh yeah.
Um, Aaron Brockovich, great film. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. Such a good movie. The Truman Show. I said classics like Good Will Hunting. Like this is movies that like that have helped shape Hollywood. That I feel like helped shape Hollywood. That have shown certain actors and certain lights where you didn't think they can go there, or it's
Yeah.
like it's just the story writing was just really good story writing. I mean, I'll tell people who are younger to check out movies like Casablanca. Even though you might not think about it, just watch it. Just check it out and watch it and understand why people hold it in such high regard. Like you just
Yeah.
watch it, because that's considered one of the top 100 movies, greatest movies of all time. You know, so watch those movies. There's literally a list by AFI that they put up. They have a newer list, a modern list, but go to the classic list and check out some of the top classics. I know people don't watch them now, but it's like, especially if you want to be into movies and stuff like that, check out some of the older
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
Then for just as something I grew up with as a teenager, like Love Jones. Love Jones, great movie, great script, great acting, good, like really good story. If you just want into like a drama slide, it's not really a comedy; it's more drama, a drama filled love story.
Yeah.
Love Jones is a great story. And then when I was in high school, my Spanish teacher, she made us read this book, and I'm not a big book reader. I read more comics than books just because of how my mind is. So
Yeah. I hear you.
but this book was called Like Water for Chocolate, and the movie came out in 1992. But it's such a good story. Like if you like reading novels about family, but also about it's like a love story within a family story.
Okay.
Such a good. If you like reading, it's a great read. But the movie itself is good. It's mostly in Spanish with subtitles, but it's a good movie. It's a really really good movie. That
Okay.
one I fell in love with that movie where had to go back and actually read the book a second time. So it's just a good story. But the biggest one I can say is the Lincoln Lawyers is one movie where I tell people, and a lot of people have not seen it. I'm surprised when people haven't seen it. I was like, you got to check that movie out. That's
Yeah.
such a good movie. I mean, as far as like new stuff, like I said, I talk more about. I focus a lot on the comic book movies, DC and Marvel. I tell people to watch
Okay.
certain things in Marvel if they want to understand. Like my sister, she wants to understand the hype. So I kind of put her on this road to watch. Like, oh, you got to watch this. You got to watch now. Okay, you watch this. Now you got to watch this one. So and
Yeah.
so and when we talk about it, she said she's now understands like why her sons be so hyped about the stories because now she's watching the order that they watch it in. And so she's
Yeah.
like, okay, it makes sense why people are so excited when these movies came to the theaters. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. The MCU is a giant soap opera. So
it
I
really
think
is. It really is.
people, I think, just get into it. And for all the recommendations you just gave out, guys, go give those a watch. Please,
Check them out.
Lincoln
Yeah,
Lawyer. He is not underestimated. Lincoln Lawyer is a banger. That movie's so good.
check out
Really,
the
really
TV show.
good.
The TV show is actually good too.
I didn't even know they had a TV show.
They did a TV show.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it
Is it
has two.
before or after?
Oh, it's recent. It's
Recent?
the last 2 years has
Oh,
like
okay.
two seasons, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons. It's actually really
Okay.
good. Really good.
Definitely. I need to check that
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So nonfiction, I appreciate you taking the time, to
Oh,
do this.
it's all love, man.
Um, I love it. Like I mentioned, this is only the second time I've done it, and thank you for being a great guest as well. So where can they find you at? Your Instagram, your YouTube, everything. I'll link all that down below as well. But
Mhm.
yeah.
So the Instagram is Ready Set Geek Podcast. That's something I've been wanting to do and working towards. So that Ready Set Geek Podcast is there. You might find a nonfiction Instagram. It's still active, but I mostly use the Ready Set Geek. And then as far as YouTube is nonfiction, just how I spell it down below. And then I do sports content on Real Fan Sports with my co-host Zach. We've been grooming that page. That's kind of why the nonfiction is kind of taking a step back a little bit to give me a breather from that one. So
Okay.
I've been really diving deep into some sports content. We've grown that channel to just over 11,000 subscribers within the last year and a half. So it's been a really good journey. But as far as Twitter, nonfiction, or Reddit Say Geek, I have both of them. I answer them all. So I know I've created them. So since I've created them, I answer when people message it. It might take me a little while because I don't be on Twitter too much. Twitter is kind of it's a world
Cesspool.
yeah, it's a toxic place. I don't like being in most of the time. So, but yeah, hit me on Instagram if you wanna message me. Instagram is the best place to get hold of me.
Guys, you heard the man. Go follow him. Go subscribe. Turn on those notifications. I love it. I appreciate you taking the time
Thank you for having me, man.
to do
Truly,
that.
thank you for having me. Yeah.
Of course. And when
I'm
we gotta
always
do this
down to do
again.
something else. Yeah, I'm always down
Definitely,
to do something
definitely.
else. Yeah.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. But guys, that's pretty much it. As always, I'm Chris. I'll catch you next time. Peace.